Hello and welcome to Hadran and to Yeshivat Risha and Kfar Etzion, giving you Gefet in the Daf Yomi, learning every week a little bit more in depth while you're learning Daf Yomi. Every week we try to learn a machloket between Rashi and Tosfot, and today we will discuss a very interesting question: why is it asur to do mekach and mimkar on Shabbos? Why is it asur to shop on Shabbos or to sell on Shabbos? So we're in Masechet Beitza, Daf Lamed Vav, Lamed Vav and Lamed Zayin, and Rashi there. Let's begin. The Mishnah in Daf Lamed Vav lists a whole list of things that are asur in Shabbos and Yom Tov. And part of that list lists three different things that it's very strange. Why is it asur? Says the Mishnah, I have a list of things that are a mitzvah and there are still asur. What is asur? You're not allowed to be makdish, you're not allowed to be marich, you're not allowed to be machrim, and you're not allowed to give truma and meiser on Shabbos and Yom Tov. And of course, it's a big question. Why? What's the problem in giving God things on Shabbos and Yom Tov? Why is it asur? The Gemara asks this question without asking. It quotes the Mishnah and Daf Lamed Zayin and says, אלו הן משום מצווה, לא מקדישים, לא מעריכים, לא מחרימים. You can't do hektish, you can't do haracha, you can't do cherem. You cannot take part of your money or things that belong to you and give them to God. Why? Gezerah mishum mekach umimkar. It's a gezerah, it's an isur derabanan, because it is close to selling and buying. Mekach umimkar. Okay. I can understand why these things are like selling and buying. I sell and buy because I move my property from me to another person. And here it's moving my property from me to God. So that's a similarity. But what I don't understand is, why is it asur to sell and buy on Shabbos? Rashi here comes to our assistance, and Rashi says, Mekach Mimkar is asur from the Mikra, because it is written in the Navi in Yeshayahu Nuchet, you have to talk only talks of Shabbos. That's one point in Rashi. The Mekach Umimkar is asur, selling and buying is asur because of what's written in the Navi, and it's asur mehamikra. That's a very interesting description of an isur. I'm not used to be describing an isur mehamikra from the Navi. Continues Rashi and says, Inami, another answer. Mekach umimkar is asur because if you will buy and sell, you might write down checks or other things that have to do with selling and buying. So it's a gezerah to a melacha of writing on Shabbos. So of course this Rashi is complex. Why is Rashi giving us two different reasons for the reason why Mekach umimkar, selling and buying, is asur? And when is it the Rabbanan and when is it the Raisa? Is it the Raisa? What's this asur min hamikra? Will Tosfot help us this time? So let's see an interesting thing that happens when we look at the Tosfot. Tosfot here quotes Rashi word by word. So let's just stop and say this is an interesting phenomenon. We must remember that Tosfot did not have Rashi written next to the Gemara like we have. Tosfot had a Gemara written in handwriting and another piece of writing giving him the commentaries of Rashi. And sometimes Tosfot decided to copy Rashi word by word so he can give his statements to other people as part of their learning. So here, Tosfot doesn't help us, but we have another tool in order to try to understand this very complex Rashi in front of us. You see there's a strudel on Rashi. Here I have this yellow around it. This strudel tells us that Rabbi Akiva Eger wrote a commentary on this Rashi. Any place you have the strudel in the Gemara, you'll see the commentaries on the side. So we're going to Gilion Hashas. These are the commentaries of Rabbi Akiva Eger. They're very short. Usually he just tells us, go and look in another place. And here Rabbi Akiva Eger says, Yael, go and check out Rashi in Daf Kaf Zayin Amud Beis, Dibur Matchila and Poskim. So let's be good girls and follow what Rabbi Akiva Eger tells us to do. So I'm moving forward, or backwards actually, to Gemara Daf Kaf Zayin Amud Bet, like I was told. And here there's a Mishnah. The Mishnah says, you do not count people on behema on Yom Tov. Ask the Gemara, what is not counting on a behema? What is it that is asur to do Rav Yehuda tells us in the name of Shmuel that you don't say how much behemah costs on Yom Tov. You don't go and say, "Oh, I want this cow, and I will pay you. How much does it cost? Oh, 500,000 shekels. Fine, I'll pay you half." You're not allowed to do that. Don't say the price. That's what you're not allowed to do. And of course, there's a question here that the Gemara doesn't answer. Why? Why am I not allowed to say prices on Shabbos and Yom Tov? Says Rashi, Mekach umimkar, buying and selling, is asur on Shabbos and Yom Tov, because so it is written in the book of Ezra, in Nehemiah, Perek Yud Gimel. What? And look, Rabbi Akiva Iger here has a strudel, and he writes to us, yeah, I'll go back and look in Daf Lamed Zayin, what we saw before. So this is very confusing. Why? Because we have Rashi with 3 different reasons why Mekach and Minkar, buying and selling, is Asher. In Daf Lamed Zayin, Rashi says it's Asher because the Navi says you're not allowed to talks of Chol, you have to do Bishabbos Dik. And he also says maybe, Inami, another reason, it's Asher because it's a Gezerah, Isur de Rabbanan, that you might come into writing. But here in Daf Kaf Zayin, he says, go and read Sefer Ezra and Nehemiah, Perek Yud Gimel. So what's written in Sefer Ezra and Nehemiah, Perek Yud Gimel? If we read there, you'll see that Nehemiah, that Ezra, when he comes to Jerusalem, he says that in Jerusalem, every Shabbos is a whole shuk. Everybody is coming, buying and selling, people from in, people from out. All the goyim will come around to sell to the people of Jerusalem, and says Ezra to the people of Jerusalem, why are you buying and selling on Shabbos? That is why Jerusalem was hareva. That sounds like an Isur D'Oraita, Isur Chamur. Ezra says that that's the Chilul Shabbos that caused Jerusalem to be destroyed. And then Ezra closes the gates on Shabbos, puts people on the gates to say, no, you're not allowed to come and buy and sell. But the salesmen, which are going, are still standing there every Shabbos, a week after week. And then comes out Ezra and says, if you continue, I will send people out to you and I will be violent towards you. And then they leave Jerusalem. So we have 3 different explanations in Rashi. Why? And when I have 3 explanations, I don't understand. When is Mekach and Mimkar, buying and selling, Asur Midiraisa? And when is it Asur Midirabanan? How will I know? Is it Isur D'Oraita or Isur D'Rabanan? And what is the source? Okay, I have the Navi that talks about talking. I have Ezra that tells me that it's Asur D'Oraita. But where in the Torah is it written that it's Asur D'Oraita? I don't understand. So that's the question we have in Rashi, the questions we have in Rashi, and we will try to find answers, but we're going to learn other Rishonim and Achronim. So let's begin with the Ramban. There's a famous Ramban on the Torah, Vayikra Chaf Gimel Chaf Daled, about the pasuk Vayeh Lachem Shabbaton, which is written on Rosh Hashanah. The word Shabbaton says the Ramban the following. First, states the Ramban, and if we look in the Gemara and in the Midrash, we will see, Midrash Halacha, the Chachamim said that if I do Isurei de Rabbanan on Shabbos and Yom Tov, I am over on Isur Aseh D'Oraita. There is an Aseh to be Shovet, an Aseh not to do all kinds of things, but I am over not doing this Aseh if I'm doing Isurei de Rabbanan. Says the Ramban, I don't understand. I don't understand. How can Isurei D'Rabanan become an Isur D'Oraita? Says the Ramban, I'll tell you. Doing one Isur D'Rabanan, that's still Rabbanan. But if you will do a lot of Isurei D'Rabanan, and you will change the day from a day of rest to a day of work, even though all you did is only the Rabbanan, you will be hampering the D'Oraisa. That will not be Shabbaton. That's when Isurei D'Rabanan become D'Oraita. If the Isurei D'Rabanan that you are going over are really hurting the day as a day of rest. So that is the Ramban Torah talking about mitzvah aseh of Shabbaton. And when are we not doing this aseh? We're not doing this aseh if we work on Shabbos, even though we're not doing any melacha, working without doing any melachot. Rambam in Ilchot Shabbos Perek Chaf Aleph Halacha Aleph also says something similar but more cryptic. The Rambam says, when he talks about Isurei Rabbanan, which will come forth in Parakim Chaf Aleph and onwards, the beginning of these Parakim, which are dealing with Yisrael Rabbanan, starts the Rambam by saying, it is written in the Torah, Tishbot. Even from things that are not melacha, you have to be shovet from them. And these things are the Rabbanan. So the same question that we asked in Rashi, we can ask on the Rambam. How can Yisrael Rabbanan become Yisrael Deraisa? Comes the Chatam Sofer, which is of course an Aharon. And he was asked the following question by a member of his community, apparently. This person asks, if somebody is opening his store on Shabbos, is he Mechal Shabbos? And if he's opening his store just a little bit, is he considered Mechal Shabbos Befaresia? Answers the Chassam Sofer, yes. If he's opening his store on Shabbos, he is Mechal Shabbos Befaresia because of the Ramban. Continues the Chassam Sofer and says, so if you ask me, how do I say this? It's only on Isur de Rabbanan, and it's written in the Mefarshim that it's Isur de Rabbanan. For example, Rashi that we saw says the Chatam Sofer. That's true. It's Isur de Rabbanan if you do it be'akrai, if you do it a one-time thing, if it's just something small, a small issue of selling and buying. But if you're opening a store, then you're like the people of Jerusalem and Nehemiah. And that's how you know when somebody's Mechal Shabbos. If you're like Nehemiah, now you can understand why Nehemiah was so adamant on stopping this, because it was Chilul Shabbos D'Oraisa. So Chatam Sofer closes the circle and helps us understand the Shita of Rashi. So let's sum up what we saw. We saw in Rashi 3 different explanations for the Isur of Mikra Chamimkar. And we didn't find our hands and our legs in these 3 different explanations. Why? Because 2 of them were pointing at an Isur D'Oraita without giving us a pasuk to explain where is it written in its Asur. And the third said it's Isur D'Rabbanan, so we didn't know how to read and understand Rashi. The Ramban and the Torah helps us to learn that there is a mitzvah to be shovet, a mitzvah to be in menucha. And if you are not doing this, even if you were going over a lot of Yisrael Rabbanan, you're not doing any melacha, then you are not doing the mitzvah aseh of Shabbaton. And the Chatam Sofer helped us understand that that's how we know when something, the Rabbanan becomes Doraita. And that's how we know when is Mekach Umimkar, buying and selling Asur Midei Rabbanan, because we're afraid that you will write. And when is it the Asur Midei Doraita? If you're just doing it a one-time thing, it's a Yisur Rabbanan, we don't want you to do it because you might write. But if you do it on a regular basis or something big, if you open a store, that's already an Isur D'Oraita. Why? Because you're being Mevatel, Isur Shabbaton, and that is a very Chamor Asur that we learned that from Nehemiah Perek Yud Gimel. So, thank you for joining me this time in an Iyun in Rashi himself. And Bezrat Hashem will continue in the following weeks to learn every week another Machloket or another Iyun in the Rishonim on the Sugya. Take care and continue learning well and strong.